Welcome to Jalsa Fiji Radio KYC segment. This is Vinesh, Program Director, and this is one of the series. We have done this before, as you would have seen the other videos where we have interviewed other candidates. And this time, as you can see in the video, we have got George Hamton in the studio with us. Welcome aboard, George. And today, in this segment, we are going to talk to you because we want to gather as much information as we possibly can in the 15 minutes that we have about you, who you are, where are you from, why you are doing what you're doing, kind of questions. So, and before we start, we would like to express our gratitude to Plains Media, as well as our knowledge partner, Christchurch Bengali community. And we have a member of the Christchurch Bengali community with us, as you can see in the video. So, we would like to thank him as well. So, moving forward, we are going to start the question. So, we'll go, I think, the easy one for you, George. So, what do you think is going to happen this evening between All Blacks and France?
Oh, well, look, thanks, Vinesh, thank you for having me, and thank you for the team, and also to Plains FM. I know, long-term in Christchurch, Plains FM has been a stalwart for so many communities, and it's just wonderful to see it still going strong. And this is not to ignore the question of what's going to happen tonight for the All Blacks, because for me it's particularly relevant, both as a Cantabrian and as somebody who followed the rise and fall of the previous coach and now looking at where Mr. Rennie may come in. I've lost some money before, not friends, on saying the wrong thing about the All Blacks, but I think they're gonna take it tonight, and I think they should take it easily. But we should never underestimate the French.
Yep.
But yeah, I've got my loyalty in this All Blacks jersey that they've got on. But if we were live on Plains FM, I would ask any listeners to provide me with tickets to the rugby tonight, but we're not. So in the future, come on in, folks.
Thank you so much. And as I think many people who would be viewing us today would know, George Hamton is a prominent New Zealand politician, and you have been in kind of in our eyes for some time now. So we know who you are. Basically, we've seen you around, and this time you are going for Christchurch Central. But we know previously you were somewhere else. You contested election at some other place, but this time you have chosen Christchurch Central. So what made you change your mind?
Yeah, so I should say that the current MP in Christchurch Central is the Honourable Duncan Webb, who's been an excellent MP for Christchurch. Duncan is stepping down at this election, retiring after 9 years in Parliament, and I think serving Christchurch very well. That created a vacancy for the Labour candidate, and I've been really proud to be selected as the candidate here. I'm from Christchurch, born and raised here for the first 24 years of my life, and then, as you were alluding to, like many other young New Zealanders, I went and sort of did some things overseas that I couldn't easily do back here at home. So, it's lovely to be back here, and a place that I've always considered to be home, a place where, I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters. My 3 brothers are still here. My parents are still here.
It's only 3 brothers and 3 sisters.
Yeah, it's a big family. only 3 brothers and 3 sisters. Yeah, exactly. If somebody out there hasn't dated one of my brothers and sisters in Christchurch, I'll be very surprised.
I see. And would you like to share something about your growing up with your siblings?
Yeah, it's probably one of those things that draws you to the Labour Party. Trying to fight a household of 9 people for time in the shower brings you to the idea of fairness and egalitarianism. But honestly, it's been a joy. My parents have always, I suppose, been unconditional in their love for us, but also involved in their community in an unconditional way as well. My mum and dad are kind of a team together. Dad is always sort of driven for social justice and reform. He's a criminal defence lawyer, but and for this community more significantly, he's worked with the victims of the mosque attack, including I think some members of the community that you broadcast to and focus on as well. Nigel Hampton, QC, or KC now, as I should say. And so I think that mum and dad have always been a sort of an example to all of us as kids, both growing up and more recently, about kind of how you should be in the world and how you should treat others, and what your obligations are, and trying to change the world and make it a better place.
Thank you so much. It sounds quite nice to hear those words, George. But like in reality, coming to the practicality side of things, how do you think you would be able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think my career has involved a lot of problem solving in different places. I mean, more recently, I've been working for the United Nations on climate change in New York, and a lot of that work has involved renewable energy projects across the developing world, particularly in Africa, but also. Then before that, I was part of New Zealand's diplomatic team overseas. So I was posted a couple of times. I was a deputy ambassador in Vienna, working on nuclear issues. And in fact, approximately 10 years ago now, I flew into Tehran in the middle of the nuclear talks there.
And that's definitely very relevant to today's world. Who knew?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing, is that all these things relate. That I sort of said before that climate change is something that we can think about happening at international conferences, but actually when you look at your guttering or the guttering on the street, that's what climate change means to us. The fact that there are extreme weather events every 8 days on average in New Zealand this year is bringing these problems home to us, that the Strait of Hormuz is not just a location on the map, but is something that's affecting the petrol price at the pump, at the Z station, is pretty relevant to how Kiwis live their lives.
I see. And just quickly, as we don't have that much time and we would like to ask a lot of questions, just quickly, what makes you think that you are going, or what made you think that you'd be a politician?
Yeah, I mean, I have my wife and I have a 3.5-year-old, and I think sort of being involved in the space I've been overseas, you get to see firsthand some of the problems and how much they're affecting people around the world. You can see how that's going to affect us here at home, and you can see how it's going to affect what your life of your child is going to be, and how much things need to change, to be honest. That we can't just assume that the lives that we've had, that the circumstances that we live in a place like New Zealand can continue on. But as I say, that we actually need to change it, and I think that pushes me to try and do more, because I think actually there's a lot of space in New Zealand to make change still. I know a lot of us probably don't feel like that, and if you look at the polls, people are saying that they feel the country is going in the wrong direction. But I actually think there's a lot of hope in people as well, that we can do something differently here, that we've always been a country that's experimented and tried to push change, and I think we can do it again.
Since you've been stayed away from New Zealand for a while as well, how do you rank New Zealand yourself? Like, is it a country that, I mean, you've come back definitely to New Zealand, but is New Zealand still the place you think people would want to live?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think there's any number of ways that you can see that. But I mean, if you run into anybody in Europe and the United States, they say, well, why the bloody hell are you here? You should be back home. And, I think we have both an incredible past as a country, but I think we have enormous potential in the future as well. But I just don't think we can kind of take that for granted. And I think Christchurch is a good demonstration of that. The city has undergone a transformation. It's not the place that I grew up in, but that's a testament to the investment and time, a decade of time and investment and persistence from people here to try and make that come true. And I don't think we can kind of afford to let our foot off the pedal on that, because the results have come because of that persistence. And I really believe in what we can be as a country. I think we are one of the greatest countries in the world. We're a small country, but we're a country that people look to as an example of how we can do better. And I think we should all, as New Zealanders, hold our head up with pride and be proud of what it means to be a Kiwi.
Thank you, George. So I think we'll just now dive into a bit into the questions that you would like to ask, but we don't really have that much time. So now that we know Labour has issued a lot of policies, have you got one of your favourite you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I think, but why don't we talk about a couple of them?
Yeah.
So 3 free GP visits. It sounds a bit like a Dr. Zeus lyric if you try and say it too quickly. But essentially, Labour is going to put in place this new Medicard policy where you'll get a little card that will give you access to a number of health benefits, one of which will be 3 GP visits a year for free. And that's important in any number of ways, but what the information shows now, what the data shows now, around 650,000 Kiwis are not going to the doctor because they are instead prioritising, fuel for the car or their groceries. But what that ultimately means is that those Kiwis are going to encounter bigger problems later on rather than dealing with those things now. And it's better for them, but I think it's better for all of us, because ultimately you're talking about billions of dollars of expenditure, often in the emergency room, that could be countered earlier on if people take those proactive steps. And it's just one of those practical ways that Labor is thinking about the cost of living now, because again, when we go out door knocking, that's the number one issue. You're meeting people who, the husband and wife or partners will both work, and yet they are still not getting by. They still feel like this is one of the worst times in their lives. So Labor is really focused on making some big promises, but promises that go to the heart of dealing with the cost of living. And the 3 GP visits is just one example of that.
I see. And I guess you've got your numbers, and you think you'll be able to make it happen.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think we've been very clear about where that money's coming from, which is a targeted capital gains tax. And part of the function of the targeted capital gains tax is, one, generating income for these new measures around health, which includes some measures around both around maternity and, as I said, the 3 GP visits as well. But the other intention of that targeted capital gains tax that doesn't apply to the family home is intended to help try and shift the economy as well. As you maybe know from my bio, I'm a small business owner as well.
Yes, would you say small?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it depends how big the ice cream is. But yeah, my wife and I co-own Mr. Whippy New Zealand, which is a fantastic and sort of iconic New Zealand brand. And and seeing that business from our perspective, one of the problems, as I know a lot of your listeners will understand, is that access to capital as a small business owner is exceptionally difficult in this country. And in part, I think that's where part of this capital gains tax goes to, because a lot of productive capital is tied up in the housing market and other sectors of the economy. We need to try and get that money out and redirect that money into more productive gains, because a business that employs 50 or 100 people should be able to have money more easily lent to it to help us innovate and drive productivity and drive the growth we need in the economy, so we can actually have a bigger, better version of the country, rather than sort of simply just focusing on the things we're already doing.
I see. And now quickly going through our community questions, because we are once again part of Christchurch Bengali community who are helping us do this KYC segments. I think at the moment what we are hearing in the media, those remarks against certain races, which includes our community as well. What are your comments to that? Would you be able to give our community the assurance that if whether Labour is in government or regardless of that, whether they will be kind of saying to the government of the day that that's not how New Zealand should be?
Yeah, I mean, I think you only need to look around the Labour caucus or the candidates we've selected every election to see that Labour is the party of the people. Labour reflects what modern New Zealand is. But I think the sort of language that you're talking about, the sort of attacks and divisiveness, I mean, for starters, it's unacceptable, and secondly, it's politics of desperation. It's politics designed to drive wedges between people and to try and create division for the sake of some others' interests to push through. And I just don't think it should have a place. And this country has always been a country of migrants. Migrants always add not just diversity, but an incredible amount of dynamism in terms of the economy. And a drive towards a better country and a more inclusive country. And I think Christchurch knows that probably better than any other city, what that means to include that, but also to change with that and to take pride and joy in that change. No country is static. No country stays still. And those that attempt to stay still or static, that's not success. If you look around the world at countries that are successful, they are the countries that change. They are the countries that include others and recognise that we are stronger together than separately.
Yes, definitely. And we thought we had a strong legislation around it, or we thought we would be protected because there's things in the legislation which would obviously prosecute certain words that are used and which can cause violence. But maybe it's not there. So would you be looking into that, kind of tightening the legislation, or if it's missing, then is someone going to put their hand up? and do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think if you look at Labor's record, what we've always stood on is sort of, I think some of the principles around nothing about us without us, and I think this goes a bit to, I know you want to go directly into the politics of it, but some of what this government has done has not actually involved the communities affected, and I think if that's the feedback from the communities and if that's how they're feeling, then those things should be looked at and examined. I mean, I think that should be the principle of good democracy, of consulting, of listening to voices, and then considering and acting from there.
I see. And yes, so we are almost on getting there on time. So finishing off, now that we have had a few policies, you've just mentioned a few, but there are others as well which are already out there and people have heard about it, and some are pretty excited. And but do you have some more coming from the basket?
Yeah. Look, I mean, there's always more to come. I think Labor's always been a party of creativity, and as I say, I think we're looking very carefully at kind of other ways we can help Kiwis. And I think some of the policies this last weekend, Labor announced the Apprenticeship Boost Scheme, doubling the amount of money that would go towards apprenticeships, the amount of time, and then also support in terms of mentorship as well, and also a tools bonus as well. That's really important because in Canterbury alone, there's 10,000 young Kiwis who are not either in work or training or education. Those people are floating out there. In some cities, it's up to 30% of young Kiwis who are without training or work, which is incredible. And it should be that way. And this is the pathway to Australia. This is the pathway to people leaving. And instead of building what we should be building here, those people will be building their success overseas. So we need to ensure that those people stay in the country because they are part of the future that we want to build here. We want a country where people want to stay, where people return to the country to help us build something bigger here.
No, definitely. I mean, I can't disagree with that, though I'm not supposed to put in my personal kind of comments, but definitely we want people to retain and we want the country to boost and go in the right direction. And just finishing off, this is like a question you don't have to answer, but is the fuel of the price ever going down, or that's it? It's not coming down?
I mean, look, again, without going too politically into things, but, if the government had continued to choose to put in place the EV incentives that were in place under the Labor government, we would have, I don't want to speculate, X percentage of cars off the road now reliant on fuel, and we would have electric cars on the road reliant on the grid, which would have been, in part, a cushion to what we're currently experiencing. But eventually, having worked in energy transition, we are undergoing a fundamental change. It's not just a war on carbon, it's a transformation of how economies work. The OECD estimates that we're going to require 73% more electrical generation in most places to drive a full transformation of everything we touch into being electric. So one day we won't be concerned about the price of fuel anymore because we will just have electric cars on the road. And it'll be better for the environment, it'll be more efficient for us, it'll be cheaper, and it'll be savings in people's back pockets.
Thank you, George. It's very nice talking to you, listening to you, and especially having the assurances from you. Sounds really reassuring. And finally, just going off, if people want to contact you, approach you, can they do that?
Yeah, they're more than welcome if they see me on the street, of course. But otherwise, yeah, my social media, George Hamton NZ on either Facebook or Instagram, even TikTok, or george.hampton@labor.org.nz. Feel free to get in touch, and we'd love to hear from you. We're always looking for volunteers and people to get involved, and it's part of being part of your community and part of trying to make, as I say, change in the world.
Thank you so much, George. That is all for today. As I said, what we can only capture as much as we possibly can in the limited time we have. And finishing off, we'd like to acknowledge Plains Media and as well as our knowledge partner, Christchurch Bengali community. And we would like to thank Arpan for taking his time and coming to the studio as well. So thank you, George, for accepting our invitation. And we hope to perhaps catch up with you again and continue with this interview. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Vinesh.
Thank you so much, and we will finish up this video, and we will come back with some more videos, with some more KYC series that we have planned. So you'll be seeing those videos in near future.